My name is Seraphina the Masked Lady. I was once human. Since then, I have lived many lives. I have been loved and reviled, adored and despised, been the child of a poor prostitute and a courtesan revered by thousands. When I was a child, a stranger with no face offered me the ability to move between the worlds. Since then, my every death has led to a new life. I once had a true love. He was ripped away from me when I was murdered in the 18th century. I search for him still. In the meantime, I walk in the shadows behind the universe, visiting realms both exquisite and terrible and bringing back stories and rhymes to amaze the mind and enchant the ear. Through my YouTube channel, I send the stories out into the world, hoping that my true love will hear them and reply. Hoping, if he does not, that I will find in the other souls who listen kindred spirits to help ease the pain. What of you, stranger? Did you come here tonight seeking a mystery? Do you hunger for a spark of excitement, for the dark thrill of fear? Will you listen as my tales unfold, knowing that some may very well take on lives of their own? Consider, stranger, whether you have the courage to walk between the worlds with Seraphina the Masked Lady. Good evening, my delicious darlings. I hope that you are all doing well this evening. I got my hat and gloves out today for the first time this year. It's always a strange feeling, isn't it, when we acknowledge that winter has well and truly arrived? It's something exciting but also a little bit spooky. After all, winter is the season of dead trees and howling winds. When we all draw closer to our fires, hoping that good company and good cheer will chase away the shivering specters we all know are drawing near to us from the outside. I have 3 tales of terror for you tonight, all set at this turning point of the year, with Halloween not yet entirely in the rearview mirror, and the hope of Christmas stretching magnificently ahead. In these chilling hinterlands walk beings both fair and terrible. So settle in, be sure to have your lights burning bright, and let me welcome you to the world of the dead. The Grin. When cold days roll around this year, I warn you, don't let in the thing that hides in a child's form, the creature called the Grin. The Grin was once a swordulven born beneath mountain pines. It fed upon lone travelers in those dark, antique times. But one cold winter long ago, the Grin was beckoned down by the hum of humanity, the noise and lights of town. From then on, for hundreds of years, lonely women and men disappeared when heavy snow fell. The Grin had devoured them. Sadly, they lacked a family to wonder where they went. And so, in the rush of their lives, people just forgot them. I cannot say quite when the Grin felt the strong urge to roam and feed on people less inclined to let it in their homes. But want it did, and leave it did, far from familiar sights. It walked and swam and boarded a boat for far foreign lights. It worked its way around the world, knocking on lonely doors. What country is it hunting now, you ask? It may be yours. So what does the Grin look like? Well, it tries to quiet fears by masking its black lips and teeth, but watch out for its ears. They are large and pointed at the top. Also, watch its eyes. They're golden as lions are on the point of an attack, while the irises are enormous, round, and entirely black. So, if a trick or treater comes with whiter than white skin, a bulbous head and glowing eyes, don't ever let him in, for the Grin is hungry again and seeks someone to eat. So slam the door and lock it tight, or you will be its meat. Scarlet's ghosts. She was birthed on Halloween night. A call was her disguise. She emerged with hair red as fire and flashing deep green eyes. They knew from her first cry that she was wondrous and fair. Even her rising natal cry sounded like a sweet prayer. All who were present smiled and laughed to see such beauty born. They thought her innocent and fair as the wild unicorn. Thus she remained. For 5 years, people called her Little Queen. Even the priest smiled at the girl born upon Halloween. Scarlet was brave. She roamed wild free. Animals were her friends. She climbed tall trees to talk to birds and walked upon the fens. She ran, she jumped, and, unconfined as a doe, she flew free. Thus, until her 13th year, she continued happily. Then, the day after her birthday, she walked beside the stream. And looking up, she noticed a man she'd not before seen. She was a touch unnerved at that, though not truly afraid. A strange man could be a danger to a virtuous maid. But he smiled at her and gestured that he need not be feared. She had barely relaxed her stance when the man disappeared. Scarlet blinked once and then blinked twice, sinking onto the grass. She tried to settle in her mind just what had come to pass. In the end, she was comforted. She thought that she'd been tired. After telling friends ghost stories that had surely inspired an illusion of flesh and blood born from her racing mind. But when her mind had halted, it had disappeared in kind. The next day, she was back to work, picking fresh raspberries, and soon forgot the man who had appeared between the trees. 3 days later, Scarlet was drawing water from the well, when she noticed an older woman who tripped and then fell. Scarlet leapt up to help her out, but before she got there, the woman vanished. Scarlet could not see her anywhere. She stood in the square looking round in horror and dismay. The people looked at Scarlet's face and found it wan and gray. One of her neighbors helped her up and urged Scarlet inside. For almost an hour Scarlet sat, numb at her fireside. In time, she fetched her water and went back into her home. Her parents were gone. Confused and tired, she lay down alone. From then on, Scarlet saw people who looked solid and clear, walking, sitting, and reading, only then to disappear. If she approached to talk to them, they would blink out of sight. Sometimes, they lingered by her window, watching her at night. The people of the village saw their darling looking odd. They were a warm, devoted group and respectful of God. That hadn't been a problem when they'd seen her with kind eyes. But there was one family that young Scarlet despised. They spread rumors around the town that Scarlet was no good, that she did not love God above. As all good children should, they said that Scarlet swam the brook without wearing a stitch. And before long, people were saying Scarlet was a witch. And what of Scarlet? She'd been aware of whispers and stares, but still she was astounded when they caught her unawares. To capture her, even her parents said she'd God forsook. The townsfolk dragged her out of town to drown her in the brook. Scarlet was heartbroken. Afraid, she knew not what to do. She'd been dishonored and betrayed by everyone she knew. She could not fight against their force till they reached the brook's side. But then she broke free and darted into the woods to hide. The people gave chase. Scarlet would have instantly been found, had not a woman in white shown her where to go to ground. She disappeared just as soon as young Scarlet crouched down there. Seconds later, the village mob passed her by unaware. Thus, it happened all throughout that long and terrible night. The figures ensured that sweet Scarlet remained out of sight. Still, it was not until Scarlet saw her grandpa appear that she understood. The people were nothing she should fear. You see, the people she saw were the spirits of the dead. There to ensure that she'd be safe and have nothing to dread. Her grandpa led her through the trees down to a larger town. The people there accepted her without a pause or frown. Still, soon enough, she moved on, and the spirits came with her, ensuring she was secure and did not need to err. In time, she loved and married, and to her fair daughter she told the tale of how ghosts had saved her from her family. The Black Cat Meriwen. The Black Cat was called Meriwen. Somehow, I knew her name. The moment that our gazes met, hers were the hue of flame, while mine were only faded blue. A man jaded and worn, a man who'd known much misery since the day I'd been born. Whenever I ventured outside to sit down on the chair that rocked upon the old front porch, then Meriwen was there. She'd sit sedately on the stairs and glance up at my face. Nobody, not even me, was so at home in that place. Sometimes, Her head would nod at me, silently welcoming. She would have been at home in palaces with saints and kings, with emperors and with gods in golden temples, rare, or princesses, gentle and fair, with waves of jet black hair. At first, I thought she was a stray because I did not meet anyone who recognized her down the length of the street. In time, I saw her form was sleek, her body large and fine. Nor did I see her hunting mice or insects over time. She seemed too calm and self-possessed to want for company. I racked my brain but could not think what she might want from me. And yet there was no danger, no threat in her feline wiles. Sometimes her looks were tender enough. I'd have called them smiles. So, evening after evening, Meriwen sat next to me, not giving nor seeking acclaim, but waiting silently. Truth be told, it pleased me to have someone there by my side. Just months before, the house had held both myself and my bride. Sadly, we'd lost our infant son, and she'd had awful dreams. Night after night, I'd been awakened by the sound of screams. I'd done what I could, but nothing that I could do or say prevented her from leaving a note that she'd run away. So it was I'd been alone in the house since autumn came. I did well enough while at work with folks to call my name. But in the evening, when I came home, the silence chilled me. A haunted absence where there once had been a family. So Meriwen became my friend. When I woke one midnight, to hear her crying at the front door in the dead of night, and heard her claws scratching the wood, begging to be let in, I thought she'd been too good to me to leave her there calling. So, to the door, I went. Meriwen raced up to my bed. You'd have thought she belonged there by the way she laid her head upon the orange cushion and closed her sleepy eyes. I didn't move her. None could such a visitor despise. Instead, I fit myself around her and slept blissfully. So much you would have thought I'd always from nightmares been free. Later, I was to look at that night as a pleasant dream. For just one night after that, I was roused by a scream, as of a creature of the woods in terror and in pain. I started up from my pillow, fear scrambling my brain, and looked around, half fearing that the thing was in my home. But no attacker appeared. My sweet Meriwen alone was looking around in surprise. She'd heard the shouting, too. I was afraid, but as any proper host must do, I rose up, and I checked the doors and windows were locked tight, and that nothing had broken in from the bowels of the night. Once more fortune was on my side. No wicked thing was there. I risked a glance through the glass. Nothing waited on the stair, upon the back porch or in the grass of my small garden. I dismissed the creep of goose flesh as the lot of fool men, and hurried back to bed. Meriwen joined me there quickly, and we sat vigil together, her warm form next to me. She was watching the windows still when I slipped into sleep. The next day dawned bright, crisp and clear, ending that long, hard week. The next night, I treated myself to dinner in the town. I brought my Meriwen a fish, a teddy bear brown. I dozed over a glass of wine on my soft couch that night, and was still there when, again, came a sound that thrilled with fright. Everyone that its horror touched. I bolted to my feet, and thought I saw a shadow dart from the porch to the street. By the time I reached the front door, no figure remained there. Only night winds and shifting leaves upon the low porch stair. Only one thing, this time, was strange. I looked for Meriwen, but she was nowhere to be found, as if she'd forgotten how, at night, she'd keep company with me on my soft bed. I looked for her. I shouted loud, but did not see her head, nor hear a sound or twitch of tail. I called a few times more, then shrugged, deciding she sought more fun than hearing me snore. Again, I headed back to bed, and again, the next eve, I heard the noise so loud this time it could barely be believed. This time, the house itself shook as if struck by massive blows. I'd not heard such, not even when tree trunks were cracked by snow. When I looked out the door this time, my heart quailed in my chest. A creature stood upon the road that no love of God blessed. A creature twisted and deformed as if by strife and pain, had thrown a rock against the wall and was aiming again. to throw a second boulder at the window of my home. I would be lucky if something that size smashed glass alone. And even if the rock did not cause further injury, once broken, the window would allow it to come at me. I ducked behind my front door and wondered if I should run for the back door and garden gate before the thing could come. Instead, I paused, not knowing why, and heard the creature yell, a sound of pain and anger. I looked out to see what befell the strange, demonic entity and watched it driven back by a small figure on four paws. Meriwen had attacked. I watched, amazed, as she so slight and small sent it away. The horned, clawed creature ran from her as vampires fled the day, and not until it was quite gone from sight if not from mind, did Meriwen return home around my ankles to wind. For 7 nights since then, the thing on cloven hooves has come, and my Meriwen bravely has driven it from our home. I do not know what god or angel sent her to help me, but if she ever leaves, I will be damned eternally. So, what do you think? How would you react if the Grin came knocking on your door? Hasn't accused whichever been saved by the ghosts of her forebears? What about the Cat Meriwen? Have you ever had an inkling that your furry friends are protecting you from more than just the specter of loneliness? Certainly, at this time of year, we all need a little extra care. I know how difficult life is in the world, but every small thing we can do to improve it counts. So, if you can help a cat, dog, or another person, please do. Believe me, it matters more than you know. Bless you all, and keep yourselves warm and safe.